Okay, welcome to your FlexMLS introductory training. I am Jeff White. I will be your trainer today. This class is going to be about an hour and a half long. We're going to cover things like your dashboard, how to add a listing, set up a search, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. So the first thing that we're going to focus on is the dashboard. Now this is your dashboard. Your dashboard is created and has these things called gadgets. Now you will notice when I'm using the system, pay close attention to my mouse, because when I'm using my mouse, a lot of times there will be hover text that will tell me exactly what I'm doing. So when I hover over this thing called test dashboard, it says this button displays your current dashboard's name. Click it to view and toggle between your different dashboards. Now you may be looking at a dashboard called home. I created one called test dashboard, and we'll talk about customizing this in a little bit. But I'm just going to switch it to the home dashboard. And when I do that, you'll notice that I have different gadgets. So the first part of the class, what we're going to focus on is customizing these gadgets based on how we use the system. So the first thing I'm going to do is this contacts gadget. What I'm going to look for is these three dots in the upper right corner. And then when I click on the three dots, I'm looking for settings. When I go to settings, this will allow me to customize this gadget. And so when I click on settings, it will show me this thing's called show columns, and there will be a list of items, and these are highlighted blue. Now pay close attention to this. I'm going to hold down Control, or if I have a Mac, Command, and click on these individual items, and it will select it or unselect it. So I can decide what columns I'd like to see in this contacts gadget. So I'm going to click on save. So now I see whether or not my client has the portal turned on, if they have any listings, or the last match for that subscription. This is a test account, so you really don't see much here. Now the next one is the showing time gadget. This is not something that I can customize, but if I'm using showing time, you'll actually have number badges in the lower right corner that will tell you if you have any feedback received or feedback requested. So we're going to keep working our way down. Now the hot sheet gadget, this is a really cool one, because a hot sheet gadget is something that you may add multiples. You may have a hot sheet gadget in a part of Flagstaff, and maybe in a different part of Northern Arizona. So if I go to the three dots and then go to settings, what I might want to do is I'm going to do Flagstaff residential. So this will be all of Northern Arizona. Click on save. And then I may decide I want a separate hot sheet for land. So in order to do that, it's very simple. I can go up to customize. And whenever you see this down arrow chevron in the system, it means that there are going to be more options available for you. I'm going to go to customize, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another gadget. I'm going to break out this hot sheet gadget into one for residential, and it could be one for land or one for residential lease. So we're going to go up to customize, and I'm going to add a new gadget. And on the left side, there's the different sections. If I just start clicking through it, I'm looking for the hot sheet one, and I see it under daily. So I'm going to click on add another. So I'm adding another hot sheet gadget, but you can add multiple gadgets of anything if you would like. I'm going to return back to my dashboard. And whenever you add a new gadget, it's down at the bottom. So I'm going to go down to this gadget. Now watch my mouse behavior. Right now it is a cursor, and I see 4 directionals. When I see the 4 directions, you see some hover text that says drag to rearrange this gadget. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down, and I'm actually going to move this one closer to the top. And so this right now is for residential. Maybe that's mostly what I do. But if I go to hot sheet and then go to settings, I'm going to customize this gadget. I may want to have this one for just residential lease. I don't really deal with a lot of rentals, but maybe I'm just curious what's going on in the area. So I do residential lease and click on save. And I now have a hot sheet gadget for residential and one for residential lease. And you'll notice that there's like 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours, however I want to do this. So I can go back 72 hours, and let's see what are the new listings for residential listings. I click on that. Whenever I see this blue text, this is something that I can click on and it will bring me into the hot sheet gadget. And again, that down arrow or chevron tells you there's more options. You could switch to a different section, let's say like price changes, if you would like. Now pay close attention to what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on FlexMLS in the upper left corner, and there is some help text there, the hover text that says return to dashboard. This will bring me back to my default dashboard. Now we're working on the home dashboard, so what I could do is I could always go to customize and make this one as a default. The reason I have one called a test dashboard is because I created my own dashboard with the gadgets that I want. And what's important about these gadgets is this is basically this is like a shortcut to the functionality in the system. What I mean by that is, see how we have some contacts information right here? We have contacts. If I were to click on, say, like Luke Skywalker, it'll actually go into Luke Skywalker's record by doing that. And I'm going to return back to my dashboard. But the actual headers of the gadgets there brings you into that section. So again, watch your hover text. When I hover over contacts, it says click here to go to contacts. Click here to go to contacts. And there it will bring me actually into contact management. So again, the gadgets are shortcuts to the functionality in the system. It's just a visual representation of something in the system for you to see when you first log into the system. Now the My Listings gadget, it's the same thing. If I want to customize this, I'm going to go to the three dots. Then I'm going to go to settings. And when I go here, I'll notice that it says days to expire 7 and then days sold 30. So this, if I want to see all my listings that expire the next 2 weeks and everything I've sold in the last year, I can do that and click on save. So my gadget now, if I had any numbers here, and these would be clickable, see, watch your mouse behavior. When it's a cursor, then it switches to an index finger. This means you can click on it. So this would tell me if I have listings to expire in the next 2 weeks. Now, because that's what I set it up as. This is great and wonderful, but let's say you're on vacation or you haven't logged in a while. You're not in front of FlexMLS. You may not notice that your listings are going to expire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the top, and inside this quick launch bar, I'm going to type in the word general. And when I type in the word general, what I'm looking for is something called general preferences. General preferences is where you customize a lot of things. I just want to point out something that's really cool is when you go to general preferences and then you scroll down to the bottom. It's about 5 or 6 from the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, actually 7 for your board. It says send email notification of expiring listings once per day for 7 days before the expiration date. This is grayed out because I have not checked the box. But what's cool about this is you do have the gadget that lets you know that your listings are going to expire. But if you want actual email notifications, check this box. You can even change it to, like, say 9 or 10 or whatever you want. I'm going to keep it at 7. So it's going to email me every day saying, hey, this listing is going to expire. And then I'm going to click on save. And this will bring me back to my dashboard. So that's one really cool setting that I like to show people. Really, the focus of this class is for an hour and a half, I'm going to show you the most common things, the most important things for you to learn when you're first using FlexMLS. Now, the new search gadget, this one is just like the other ones. If you want to customize it, we go up to the 3 dots and then go to settings. Now, right now it shows my available searches. Now, the full search says legacy. Full search is going to be going away in a couple months, but as new users, you shouldn't even worry about it. So what I'm going to do is hold on Control or Command, and I'm going to select or unselect. So I'm going to do the residential. The reason you see one that says 0-my residential search and 0.5 is when we do quick searches later on in class, you can actually customize those searches. I wouldn't do that in intro class, but that's why you see those numbers there. I'm going to do residential, lease residential, land. I'm just going to do those 3 property types, and I'm going to click on save. So this new search gadget is basically just a shortcut of what's in the system. So if I want to do a residential search, very simple, just click on this and this will bring me into a residential search. And I can always switch into a different property type. Remember your down arrow or chevron, you see that, I click on it. I could switch to say a lease residential or land, whatever I want to do. And we will be focusing on this and more towards the second half of the class. I'm gonna click on FlexMLS to return back to my dashboard. So kind of sum up what we've been doing on the dashboard is we've been going to the 3 dots in the upper right corner of a gadget, clicking on settings to customize the gadget. So that's one way you can customize these gadgets. Another way I showed you is you can actually change the order. So if I find a gadget and I watch my mouse till it switches to the 4 directionals, I can hold my mouse button down, my left one, and then move it up. There we go. So I've now moved the My Listings gadget all the way up to the top. So that's another cool thing. Another thing that I really like to do when I'm dealing with the dashboards is right now we're just using 2 columns, and I feel like I could get a 3rd column in here. There's a lot of this white space. So I'm going to go to Customize, and then I'm going to go to Change Layout right here. You'll notice, so we see the 2 columns, but the one I really like to use is the 3 columns because I can fit a lot more information on a screen, but there are other options. So I'm going to switch to the 3 columns. And then this is basically going to force me to kind of rearrange them. So, you know, I'll hover over one, get the 4 directionals, move this one over, and then this one I'll move over. And if I were to refresh this, it'll fix it so it doesn't have all that extra space. So I now have 3 columns, and you can continue to add gadgets. Now, you can add gadgets on this home dashboard, or you could do what I did. I created a test dashboard and just added whatever gadgets I'd like. But one thing I really like is there is a specific dashboard just for stats. And I find stats are really important to look at, especially right now. I know a lot of places in the US, the market is just crazy, crazy busy. So I'm going to add an entirely new dashboard for stats. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Customize, and I'm going to go to Add Dashboards. And then what I'm going to do is scroll down the bottom, and I see one called Market Stats, And I'm going to add this dashboard. And give it a second to load. So we see gadgets for absorption rate, inventory, sold days on market, prices, sale to original list price ratio, and volume. Now, right now, this is everything for Northern Arizona. So multiple cities, a large geographic area. So you might find it's rather interesting, but I really like to drill down with these gadgets, go into more a specific area to get a better idea. So something like the absorption rate. Now, absorption rates, usually 0 to 4 months, 0 to 5 months, depends on how people define it. It is a seller's market. So the conditions are favorable to the seller. 4 to 5 months, 5 to 6 months is a neutral market, whereas 5 or 6 months and above is a buyer's market. So conditions are more favorable for the buyer. So you'll notice things have dropped down, and with COVID, it's actually become more of a seller's market because there's a lot less inventory and people are panic buying. And so in this area, I assume it might be from California. I was talking to someone in Poconos in Pennsylvania, and they're having bidding wars from people from New York City buying a houses sight unseen because they want to get out of the city because of what is going on. So, you know, you can get some really good stats here inside of FlexMLS. So let's do that. Let's look at this absorption rate gadget. I'm going to go to the 3 dots and go to settings. And when I do this, what I really want to focus on is this box right here that says location. Now, when I click inside this box that says location, it gives me some options for different areas. And you'll also notice where it says My Map Overlays Airbnb Locations. These are shapes that I created when I was training there. I think it was probably in January. these are shapes that I created. So basically I was creating different shapes around Northern Arizona University where people could buy properties for Airbnb locations. Now, that's something that I created. And you'll notice this gives you some ideas of things, but these aren't your only options. If I were to type in Flagstaff, I'll notice that it gives me a city for Flagstaff, but it also gives me different areas. You're using areas in your board. So what I could do is, okay, I want to see the absorption rate for just Flagstaff Mesa. So I'm going to double click on this and then click on save. Now pay close attention to what I'm going to do. I'm going to do Flagstaff Mesa and then Flagstaff Townsite. What it says, it only allows you to use one location. Later on in class, we're going to be drawing map shapes, and I want you to pay close attention to this explanation. You can only choose one thing here, but a shape is one thing. And this north of NEU, this could encompass multiple subdivisions, multiple areas. You can draw a shape to just be one thing, but it could include multiple things. So don't worry like, oh, I can only do one thing. Well, maybe, you know, area 125 and 126 are very similar in price and in the type of houses, and you want to see the stats for both of those. We'll just draw a shape around 125 and 126, name it, you know, 125 and 126, and then you can pull it up here in a stats gadget. But we're just going to do the Flagstaff Mesa, and I'm going to click on save. So now this is going to be the absorption rate for Flagstaff Mesa, and it looks like there's just not enough data. I don't really see any numbers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to customize. I'm going to add another gadget. And let's go down, where's it? Statistics. This time we're actually just going to do the entire city of Flagstaff. So I've added it and I'm returned to the dashboard. And remember, whenever we add a new gadget, down at the bottom. So I'm going to actually switch this absorption rate. We'll try something else. Try Coconino Estates. See if we get some numbers. There we go. We get some numbers in Coconino Estates. And so the new gadget I've added, it's down at the bottom. I'm going to bring it up. And this one, so this is for everything in Northern Arizona. This isn't just the city of Flagstaff. This is everything in Northern Arizona. So let's go to the settings and we'll go to location. And this time, let's try University Heights. And then I'm actually going to do a third one for all of Flagstaff, just to show you how this works. So this is going to be the absorption area for University Heights. So you'll notice Coconino Estates is quite different. And especially in the last few months, the absorption rate, it's kind of changed and it really moved around, where University Heights has kind of been consistent over the last year. If you're just looking at the aggregate, you're just looking at everything, you may not get, you know, interesting stats like this. So we're going to add another absorption rate. So I'm going to go to customize. I'm going to add a gadget. And let's see, where is that? It's down in the third or the statistics section. We're going to add another absorption rate gadget. You can add as many gadgets as you'd like. You can add as many dashboards as you'd like. So we had another one that's down at the bottom. We're going to just move it up. And this is why I really like to do the three columns, as I can, you know, really get a lot of nice space. So we'll go to settings. This time we'll just do the entire city of Flagstaff and see what our absorption rate looks like. So our entire city of Flagstaff is very similar to what we see in the aggregate, because that's probably where a lot of the listings are. But you'll notice like huge difference in the absorption rate versus if we were looking at specific areas. So I really like to drill down with, and this can just give you some great information. There's something called the market summary report right here, which I don't cover in an intro class, but has a lot of these same stats, and you can create these reports for things like your client. And so it's the same thing with the market summary report. You can only select one thing, so like an area. But if you draw a map shape, and we will draw a map shape later on in the second part of the class, you'll understand that you can now pull these into the different stats reports. Okay, so that is how we customize the dashboard. And before we continue, I just want to point out the menu. So if you're a new user, you'll probably just see 5 options right here. You're provided 5 default options. But what I like to do is I like to put the things that I do on a daily basis up here in this menu, and I'll show you what I mean. When I click on menu, and there's a star next to something, that means it's going to be up here. So if I were to unclick RPR is going to go away and showing time is there. Or if I want to add something like full copy. Full copy is great if you're doing a lot of rentals. It just basically copies the listing again and again, so it saves you time. And if you want to change the order of these, I'm going to go to reorder, and I can actually change the order of these if I would like. So that is a great way about the menu. So put the things that you use on a daily basis up here, then under menu, you know, if you need to find something, you can always find it in here, but I always put the stuff I use regularly up here in the menu bar. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to set up our profile. And what do I mean by that? Well, your profile is your basic information, and when you first log in, it usually asks you to do stuff, but you may kind of just skip over it because it's the first time you're logging in. So if you want to come back into the system, we're going to go to my profile right here. And there's a few parts that I want to point out. The quick profile maintenance is important. When I go to quick profile maintenance, this is where you're going to usually plug in some information. So you're going to have your name, and then your marketing name would be, now I have Chewie in there because I use Star Wars characters for my training, but marketing name could be something like, okay, Jeff White is my name, but my nickname is JD. And so I've gone by JD since I was a kid, and a lot of people know me by JD, my initials. So for your purposes of a marketing name, you may go by Buzz or something else as opposed to like Michael, whatever your name is. And then we're just going to put in some other information. My website, www.mlsroadschool.com. Any license information or languages spoken. I speak English and Spanish. And you put some bio information. Now, if I keep scrolling down, the agent portal, this is something I want to pay close attention to. Now it says Jeff White 4, the reason being there's probably 3 other Jeffs Whites who use the FlexMLS system. Your portal, and I will talk about this more in the second half of the class, but your portal is a website your client can log into, tell you what they like, what they don't like. I highly recommend it because basically, especially now with COVID and stuff, people are doing so much stuff more online. Your clients are already looking for properties online. If you get them into the FlexMLS portal, they get to see what you see, but public information. I mean, if they see a listing, they want to reach out to someone, they reach out to you, not the other agent. And so this URL is something you're going to want to write down, you're going to want to save, and I'll talk about it briefly in the second half. But I do want to point out, I did a portal class there in person in the winter, and hopefully I can come back again later on when things change. But we go to help, there is video training. And if you search all videos, type in portal, and there should be like a portal 101 class. Let's try that one more time. FlexMLS portals on any platform. This should be a good one to kind of explain to you how the portal works, how to set it up. It really, I do highly recommend it, and I will talk about it a bit more in the second half of the class. But it's just, once you understand the value of it, it really does save you some time when you're dealing with your clients. So we're gonna keep going down. If we want to use display options, you can use the marketing name here. Otherwise, it's just gonna be your system name. And if you want to include any designations, you can put that through here. So I'm just gonna click on save. And then one other thing I'm gonna go to is the personal photo and logo maintenance. This is where you're gonna upload your headshot and possibly your logo for your company. So, okay, so I click on that, and then I'm gonna go to new. So I'll just say my headshot or me, or whatever I want to call it. Now I'm gonna keep it selected on photo, but if I were to do a logo of, say, my company, then I would click on that. We're gonna browse. Here is my headshot. And I'm just going to actually resize it so it's a landscape, because that photo is in landscape and it puts it in a standard size, preserves the ratio. And now I'm going to click on add. So this is the kind of thing that would show up in my portal or on any reports that I do. And then if I wanted to upload my logo, I could click on new and upload that as well. So just kind of sum up how we do the profile information. What we're focusing on is the quick profile minutes and the personal photo. And I did that by typing in the word my profile up in my quick launch bar and then pulling that up. Now, the great thing about this recording is you can start and stop at any time. So if you feel like I'm talking about a lot of stuff and you can't remember, just stop, try it on your system, and then watch the recording, continue on with it. So the next thing I want to talk about is how to add a listing. So really this intro class is showing the things that you need to know right away, but also things you might do right away, and you might add a listing right away. So what I'm going to do is I like to use the quick launch bar to do functionality in the system. So if I were to type in add, I can go to add listing right here. And this will allow me to start to add a listing. So really how you add listings inside the system, you're just going to go from tab to tab, put in all the information. And then once you have all the required information, you add the listing and it becomes live. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do property type of residential. If I had a co-listing member, like I had another agent working with me, put that in there. Now this one says this is a regular listing or a parent listing. What that means is there's also an option for a child listing. That's not very common, but my example would be is let's say you have a 20-acre parcel of land. So your client is willing to sell all 20 acres or sell 4 plots of 5 acres each. If it's 4 plots of 5 acres each, then they would be each individual, you'd have, different listings for that. And then how that works with the system is, if you sold one of the children, then you couldn't sell the parent because the parent is no longer the 20 acres, it'd be like the 15. Or if you sold all 20 acres, then the other 4, the ones that are children, would be canceled. So that's how this functionality works right here. We're going to click on next. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to type in the information about my listing. Now this isn't a current actual listing, just so this works. So I'm typing 1320, and you'll notice that you have red or pink. These are the required fields. This is important that you get this correctly. So let's put in a direction as text street. If I just start typing in street, it'll jump to it. County. I actually don't know what county that is. It's been a while since I've been up there. So give me 1 second. I apologize for this. One thing I forgot to prepare for. I used to live in Prescott, but I didn't know actually what county Flagstaff was in. Coconino. There we go. Okay, so we'll switch to Coconino. And when you do that, these are things called related scrolls. When you do Coconino, it limits the options you can do. And so I'm going to put in my APN number of 102.11.018. Do Flagstaff, and then the zip code of 86001. I'm going to click on next. Now, you want to make sure this information is correct, because what it's going to do is it's going to try to map this property correctly. And even before I do that, I want to point out, it says last autosave 11:28 a.m. Why that's important is when you're entering in a listing, it's going to automatically save it every 2 minutes as a draft, not like save it to make it go live. But that's important because, I have had a lot of realtors tell me that the most common time they get calls from their clients is when they're entering listings. And so we're going to talk about how you can, if someone's looking for something, you could always type it into the quick launch bar, or you could, right click quick search, open it up into a new tab. So you don't lose the work that you're working on. Here, let me just, so then I can do, a quick search right here. 1 second, let me just close these tabs. So, but you want to make sure this is mapped correctly. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on next, and you notice that last autosave in 2 minutes, or at 11:30, it should update. Click on next And so what it's going to do is it's going to try to find this location. Now, I happen to know that this is correct, but if it's in the wrong location, this is getting sent to Google. So ideally it finds it, but sometimes in the newer areas, newer subdivisions, it doesn't know where it is. So if you use your left mouse button, click inside the map, and then start to move things around, hold it down, you can actually move it to a different parcel. But this should be correct. Sometimes it's easier to switch to the satellite view so you can actually see what the house looks like to get a better idea, like, yep, that is correct. And so we're gonna click on use this location. It is so important to get your houses in the correct location, and we'll see this more in the second half of the class, because when we're drawing map shapes, we're doing a radius around something, or you're drawing a map shape, near like a certain national forest or something, if that house is mapped incorrectly, that's not going to show up in that search of another realtor. So that disadvantages you, because your client, their property is not showing up in that search because you didn't take the time to make sure it was mapped correctly. So it is so important, because sometimes people just search for, like, say, Flagstaff or a different city, but if they're using actual map shapes instead of a city or an area, unless that is in the correct location, you are not finding that. So we're going to click on use this location. And it says this is a duplicate listing because this is a current listing. That's fine. Normally you would not see this. So I'm going to click on continue adding listing anyway. And so we see all these red or pink fields. And that, again, these are the required ones. So I'm just going to put in some information, 450,000. And basically you would just go through each individual one. And list date, we're going to make it tomorrow. The expiration date, say 8/29/2021. You can either type it in or use the calendar. Put the commission rates in, construction status. And so make sure you put in your license number, and you can get that here. And so there's different regions, and we did a certain region, then it would give you a list. So again, these are called related scrolls. If you notice there's no option, it's because you have to select something first. And there's actually a revised region area list map. So your board is providing all kinds of great information that you should take a look at so you can see, where these things want to go. Because again, I can't emphasize this enough. Making sure it's in the correct location is important, but also make sure you're putting in the right fields here, like a region or an area. Because if you put it in, 121 and it's actually 125 and people are searching for 121, that's not going to show up. So you really want to make sure, once you're more comfortable using the system, you're going to generally know where things are. But make sure you click on these. These are links that if I click on something, it's going to open up into a new tab. And this one will actually download. And so let's see if we can pull that one up. You want to make sure you are putting these properties in the correct location. So this gives you some great information about how things were changed. And then we'll try the next one, which is the map overlay function. And so this actually shows you, okay, that gets downloaded as well. Yours might pop up. My browser is just set to download things. So this shows you how you can do a search first to make sure it is in the correct location. Okay, so we still continue to start filling out information, things like subdivisions, cross streets, very important. Your board is being very diligent about providing multiple ways to provide the location of a property so other people can find it. So that's really awesome. And then you'd fill out, all these fields and things like, bedrooms, bathrooms, make sure that's all correct. And so when you're done with a certain section, one thing you'll notice, public remarks. This gives you 800 characters. So you type in information and watch. This shows you how many characters. It's limited to 800 characters. So basically it would fit onto one page of a listing report. But if you go to more, it'll give you 10,000 extra characters. So, chapter 1, and put in more information if you would like. That's in a separate section called the supplement. So then it has all this information on the main field. So if we wanted to go to the details tab, I click on next, or I can click on details. And so you'll notice a lot of this is not red or pink, meaning it's not required, but I highly recommend filling out as much information. So the HOA is required, but I highly recommend filling out as much information as possible because a lot of times other realtors are searching for things like kitchen features. And if you don't fill this out, you know, that your listing is not going to show up in their search. So you really do want to take the time to make sure, you know, you've been to the property, you know, what everything is, you've made notes of it. And when you're filling out that listing, or like someone in your office does it for you, they have all the correct information. So when they enter this listing, everything that it has is checked, because, you know, someone may be looking for a house with 3 fireplaces. And if you don't enter that information, you have this unique property that has 3 fireplaces. Again, that's not going to show up in the search. And that'll make more sense in the second half of the class. So when we're good with that, then we go to the next step. And this brings us to photos. Now, your board requires you to upload at least 1 photo before the listing goes live. And this is great because other boards across the country, they don't. So listings will go live in 3, 4, 5 days later. There's still not even a photo of the property. And people are like, hey, I want to see what this looks like. So you'd click on browse. And then you would, you know, find your photo and upload it. Now, I'm not going to upload a photo because I don't have a photo of this house. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain photos very, very quickly. And what I mean by that? Well, okay, you're required 1 photo to start. But your photo resolution, your photos have to be less than 15 megabytes, 15 megabytes per photo. That's not total. So, I mean, if you take some really high quality photos, I've been doing a lot of hiking in the Appalachia, and my high quality photos are about 10 megabytes per photo. So, you know, you want to upload a really high quality photo. Now, what that also means is for resolution, you want the resolution to be less than 3000 by 2000 resolution. And so I'm just going to show you what 3000 by 2000 resolution. We'll look at a wallpaper. And if your photo is larger than 3000 by 2000 resolution, what FlexMLS will do is it'll shrink your photo proportionally down below. So 3000 by 2000, I'm going to zoom in. This is what 3000 by 2000 resolution looks like. So this is really important. Now, the reason this is important is there's good news. The good news is that your photos are going to look awesome. The bad news is that your crappy photos are going to look even worse. So you want to make sure you're uploading the highest quality photo that you can. And people are like, well, won't it take too long to load? No. What FlexMLS does is when you upload a photo, FlexMLS will create 4 different versions of the photo. And once it's created 4 different versions, it'll, you know, use the correct version of the photo depending on where you're displaying it. So again, always upload the highest quality photo that you can, because if, you know, these are going out to other sites, or you know, people are looking at this on their iPad and you have a high resolution display, you know, photos can sell properties. And so it's very, very important that you have these high quality photos. And so you just put a description. Usually your primary photo is going to be the front of the house. And so we're going to broker distribution. Now, something like this, most people will avoid, but a lot of times you might have a client who says, hey, I don't want this listing to go out in the internet, or maybe they just don't want the address. Don't forget, when you're in any part of the system and you're not quite sure what it is, there is a help option that says help with this page. It's the first help option, help with this page. And so this is the broker distribution tab, but it'll actually explain what all of these different options are. So whenever you're at something, you go to the help of this page, a lot of times it will give you very, very specific help. So if I were to be ready to add this listing again, before we continue, last autosave 11:36 a.m. It's been saving it every couple of minutes, which is great, because again, I might be working on a listing. I have a client call and say, oh, I'm really interested in another property. And so let me right click this, open this in a new tab, and then, okay, well, let me do a search for you. I don't lose the work that I'm doing. So I do it this way. Or maybe because that address that I used was an actual listing. I'm gonna do the 1320 North Aztec, or maybe we'll do, I'll open this up into new tab. So I don't lose, again, the work that I'm doing on the system. And you can have as many tabs open as you would like. It's a really cool functionality of FlexMLS. Okay, so I'm ready to make this listing live. So what I would do is I would click on add listing. Well, look what happens. 28 errors have been found. Please click OK, then fill out the remaining required fields. And you'll notice all those red or pink fields that I did not fill out. I cannot make this live until I filled out information. So a lot of times you don't have all the information right away, so you might save this as an incomplete listing. And when I do that, it's going to bring me to a different screen for my incomplete listings. And it says change incomplete residential listing. And you'll notice this says photo, documents, videos, and virtual tours. This listing is not live yet. So I want to make sure I upload all those photos or documents when I can before the listing goes live. And if I ever want to pull up my incomplete listings, let's say I did this a couple days ago and then now I'm ready to finish it, I get more information, I can just type in my incomplete. And when I do that, that'll actually bring me all to my incomplete listings. And so I see the 1320 North Aztec. Click on that and I go down to the bottom and click on edit. I can always email or print it if I'd like, but I'm gonna click on edit. And again, if I'm ready, I have all the information I need, I go back into the listing information section and then I'm going to add it. Okay, so we're gonna spend a couple minutes doing some review. So I'm gonna do this class in two 45-minute sections. One reason I don't like to teach more than 4 or 5 minutes because I find people will start to lose their attention, but also Hurricane Laura or Tropical Storm Laura is passing through my area and I want to make sure I at least get something recorded in case my internet goes out and I have to re-record another section later. Okay, so what did we focus on the first section of the class? We focused on the dashboard, and the 4 things I want to talk about or talked about on the dashboard is you can customize by going to the 3 dots and then going to settings. And I can decide maybe I want to see what's going to expire the next 7 days. Then what I can do is I can hold my left mouse button down when I see the 4 directionals and I can change the order. I can also go to customize and I can add a gadget. So I added another hot sheet gadget, or I can add a dashboard, which we did. But then I also changed the layout. So if I want to have 2 columns or 3 columns or whatever I want to do, I can do that. And that new dashboard that we created, we called that the market stats one. And what's great about the market stats is we broke down the absorption rate into different areas, because if we're looking at all of Northern Arizona, we're going to see something like this, where if we break it down to different areas, we may notice something's really, really hot or not, looking at an area or a city, that kind of thing. So that's the first thing we focused on, was we focused on the dashboard. Then what we did is we set up a profile, and I did that by typing in my profile and clicked on my profile. And I focused on the quick profile maintenance to put in some information, and then the personal photo is where I uploaded my headshot. I also talked about these menu items. These are the things that I use on a daily basis. I can go to menu and star them so they are always there, or I could unstar them if I'm not using them on a regular basis. And then I can always go to reorder if I want to change the order of these favorite menu items. And then what we did is we added a listing by clicking on add ADD to add a listing. And then we went through the different steps. Now, the one other thing you could do is you could type in change. If you have an actual listing that is live, this is a test account, I don't, but you go to change listing and you can see all of your listings and edit them. And it's going to be very similar to what you see on the incomplete listing screen, just you're going to have a lot more options. And so I'm just going to go back into my incomplete to show you how I pulled up that my incomplete listings. So I pulled up, found the address, the one I was working on, and clicked on edit. This is where I'd upload photos and documents, and the change listing would have other things down here that you could click on and add. But I'm just going to go into listing information. If I had all the information that I was, had typed in, I was ready, I click on add listing. If everything, all your required fields are filled out, then it's going to, make it live and generate that MLS number. Okay, now we're going to stop recording, and in part 2, we will be focusing on searching and a bit of contact management. And we're back for part 2. So part 2, what we're going to be focusing on is doing searches for clients, and we'll do a little bit of contact management just to get you familiar with that. So when I start a search for a client, I find one of the easiest things to do is just go to the property type, like say 1-residential on my dashboard gadget, and click on it. So we're gonna, break down by going through the different search parameters and then the different things that we can see once we've done the search. So let's just go down the left side. Now I see MLS of NAAR. That's the first thing that I notice. If I click on any of these bold words, what it's going to do is it's going to allow me to, if you wanted to look at Sedona instead or both combined, if I hold on control, I can do both combined. But you may notice now, not all the fields are in common. So you'll notice there's a lot less fields when you're searching for both. So it may make sense to just do Northern Arizona or Sedona one at a time. Now I'm going to click on quick search just to refresh it. And we'll go back to residential. And so that's a really cool option. You can see, listings in Sedona as well. Now the status of active, pending bank approval, pending take backup, these are the default statuses that are selected when you're looking at this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on status. And whenever you see this list, we saw this list in the first part of the class. If you hold on control or you hold on command, if you have a Mac, you can click or unclick things. So if you just really want to see active listings, it drops it down to 242. But one thing I want to point out that's a really cool option is the see all and select date ranges. You see something like sold date and it says 2/28/2020. So it's going to go back 6 months and it'll go 10 years into the future. Now, if I were to check the box, if I switch to closed, and then this is now checked, and it's going to go back everything that's sold in the last 6 months, this is what's called an absolute date range. If I change this to say 1 month ago, 7/28/2020, it'll show me everything that's sold in the last month. But what's really cool about this, and I mentioned this before in the first part of the class, is pay attention to your mouse, because there's oftentimes hover text that'll tell you something that you had no idea. I would have no idea that I could click on these two black arrows until I read the hover text and it says change date type. Well, I'm going to click on change date type to go from an absolute date range to a relative date range. And it says 182 days back. I could change this to 3 days. Whenever you see blue text and you see, watch your mouse behavior, it changes from a cursor to a index finger, meaning you can do something with it. I'm going to go to 3 months back. We'll see 881 results, or I could even do 3 years back. And so that's a really cool option. And if I click on years again, it'll switch back to days. So a toggle between a relative date range and an absolute date range. Now, what's great about this is if I save this search for 7/28/2020, it's always going back to 7/28/2020, no matter when I look at the search. But if I were to change this just 1 month back, it'll only show me 1 month back from any time. So if I look at the search in December, it's going to only go back 1 month into November. Whereas if I were to do, 7/28, it's always going back to that 7/28. So that's a really cool option. Now I'm just going to keep it on active and we're going to click on hide date ranges. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through these different search parameters, put in some information. So I'm going to do a list price of say 250,000 to 300,000. Property subtype, let's do single family residence. And I think I'm actually going to change, we'll try 200,000. I'm not sure what the going rate for houses are right now in that area, but we'll do active, pending, take backup. There we go, up to 38. And then so we could do city, region, area. So these are different ways to narrow down your search with parameters. I'm actually going to draw on the map in a little bit and do that instead. You can do these things, but these are pretty self-explanatory. A lot of the map shapes people don't quite understand. So in an intro class, I really like to focus on them first. You do subdivision, just click inside the box. I'm sure there's a subdivision by the name of tree of something. Actually, there's not one, but if you put in a subdivision, you can do that. One way to find a subdivision would be really easy. I'm actually going to switch to the list tab really quickly. And actually, we'll do the detail tab. Okay, so where is your subdivision field? Crestview. So if I wanted to type in something like Crestview right here, there's one in Crestview. Now, one really cool thing about subdivisions though, and pay close attention, I keep talking about that mouse behavior, I can't emphasize it enough, because things like subdivision like Crestview, well, this I would have no idea that it says click to change include exclude unless I read that hover text. I could change that subdivision to not like. So you might draw a map shape encompassing a certain area, like near, Mormon Lake area, but you want to avoid a certain subdivision because maybe when I used to teach in California a lot, they had a HOA fees for $28,000 a year in certain subdivisions around LA. And so whenever I would teach there, people would say, well, how do we avoid these subdivisions? You could type in a subdivision name and then do the not like. So that is a cool option. So I'll do bedrooms. Let's just do 3 bedrooms. We'll do 2 baths. And I can keep entering in more and more data if I'd like. Approximate square footage, let's do 1,500. And I could always do a range, 1,500 to 2,000 or whatever it is I want to do. Now let's see if maybe we'll try 3,000 to 4,000 or 300,000 to 400,000. See if we can get some more results. There we go. Much better, more in Flagstaff. So Flagstaff is definitely pricier than other areas. Okay, so you're given a lot of fields on the left side, but what I want you to do is pay close attention that these aren't the only options. If you click inside this box that says add a field to the search, you're going to get a pop-up that shows you all of your possible fields. And if you start scrolling down through them, you see everything you want. But if you know what you're looking for, just type it in. So I'm going to start typing in cooling because I have options like, say, central air. Or if I were to even type in the word central air, it just shows me central air. Now, there's 2 ways I can do this. I can click on central air and it just adds central air over to the left side. Or what I can do is I can add the entire cooling group over by typing in cooling. And then it adds the entire group over. So a lot of times it makes more sense to click on the bold word. And you know it says click to add all fields in this group. So you add the entire group over. Now watch what happens if I check central air. So it drops down to 14. And originally it was 67. So not a lot of central air in the Flagstaff area. But these are operators, or not, or and operators tend to make a lot more sense when we're dealing with things like appliances. So I'm going to do the kitchen features because I want to see all the kitchen features. So we'll do kitchen features and it adds the entire group over. And so what I mean by operators, well, right now, I'm just going to uncheck central air. We have 67 results. So watch the number, watch what happens when I check the box next to refrigerator. 67 drops to 27. And then I check the box next to dishwasher. 27 jumps up to 60. Why does it do that? Well, when I have the operators of or, what I'm telling the system, okay, is this has to have a refrigerator or a dishwasher. So that's why I jumped up. Now, it may make more sense that it has to have a refrigerator and a dishwasher. So now it drops down to 23. So in order for it to show up in your search parameters, it has to have that refrigerator and it has to have that dishwasher. It has to have both of them. And then another thing you can do is or not or and, I can change it to not, but it cannot have a microwave. So that drops it down to 7. So again, to show up for these searches, it has to have a refrigerator and a dishwasher, but cannot have a microwave. So that's how these operators work, or not, or and. So really cool thing. Now, if I click inside this box to add a field to the search again, all the possible fields that I can search on, if you don't know what you're looking for, just start scrolling through these different things. And these are all that, this is all that information that got added when we add the listing. But yeah, if you're not really quite sure what it's called, just spend a few minutes scrolling through it, kind of get a better idea. And then, you know, you can add it. And like we'll do the number of fireplaces, maybe that's important. Now, I want you to understand what I'm gonna explain next. This 1-residential is a template, meaning it was provided to you by the board. And when I click on the thing, you notice I have one that says 0-my residential search and one called my new residential, because I taught a couple of classes there and I created my own templates. Well, what do I mean by templates? Well, the templates are the fields on the left side that are available. Once you start saving stuff inside there, putting stuff in there, that's actually a saved search. So what I mean by that, when I go to save, I'm given two options. Saving a search, meaning this would save a search for 300 to 400,000, 1,500 plus square foot. That's specific for client. But if I want an actual template, decide what's on the left side that's available, that's a template. And so what I mean by that is I'm actually going to show you that. I'm going to open up into a new tab. And we're going to switch this to 0-5 new residential. So what I did is I removed the fields that I was not interested in, and then I added fields I was interested in, like kitchen features. And then I created my own template. So these are always available. Why would you do this? Well, on the regular residential template, you might find there's just something not there that you always use, and you're tired of always having to search for it. So you create your own template. So we can do that exact same thing. What I mean by that is I can remove fields that I'm not interested in. I've added some fields I am interested in, like cooling or kitchen features, fireplaces. So when I go up to save quick search template, I'm creating my own template that I can always use. And this one I'm going to call 0.75 because I already had a couple others. And we'll just call this August res template and click on save. So again, the template is the fields that are available to choose. Once you enter information into those fields, then it's a safe search. We're going to do both. So I've created an August res template, and just to show you how that worked, we're going to right click this again. You'll notice I keep opening things up into a new tab so I can have as many tabs as I'd like. Let's switch that to the 0.75. And what do I see? I removed some fields I was not interested in, and then I added that cooling, kitchen features, and numbers of fireplace. So that is always available, and I can use this at any time. So it's a really cool thing, but I really like to take the time to break down the difference. People get confused on what a template is. The template are the fields that are available, but once you start filling in these fields, then you're making it a search for a client, and that's what we're gonna do next. So let me close this. We're saving this search for a client. Now, why are we saving this search for a client? Well, when dealing with clients in FlexMLS, I like to think of it as 3 tiers of support. And what do I mean like this? Well, the first tier is a manual email. Now, you meet someone, they ask you, hey, can you send me some listings? You email them some listings. You're manually doing the work. You are doing the work. Now, so maybe we see 7 results. We email these listings. There's a new listing in Flagstaff that is for the same search parameters. Well, if I don't save this search, I would have to do this search again and again. Again, I am doing all the work. That's not ideal. So that's the tier 1 support, you know, in FlexMLS with clients. Tier 2 would be the save search and subscription, which we're going to do. Well, what does that mean? Well, I want to save this search. It currently has 7 results. Now, if I save the search and set up a subscription is an auto email or a drip system. So what I'm doing is I'm telling the system, hey, email my client when there are new listings, price changes, status changes, that kind of thing. You're having the system do the work. And how subscriptions work in FlexMLS is they are an opt-in process. And I will be talking about the opt-in status report at the end of this part. But basically what that means is to get around spam filters and ensure that, you know, FlexMLS is delivering 99.9% of emails, that kind of thing. You have to opt in. So you send an email to your client and basically says, hey, do you want to receive some emails? They're like, yes. They click on a button. They're good for 13 months. If they click on a link at any point in 13 months, they're going to be good for another 13 months. And I'm going to show you what those emails look like. Hopefully it will work. Murphy's Law, you know, with training, something always goes wrong. but I'm going to actually generate a couple emails. So that's the tier 2 of support, is you're saving a search and subscription. You're having the system do the work. Now, tier 3 would be the portal. And I talked about the portal briefly in the first part, but I'll talk about it more now in the second part. And like I said before, if you really want to understand how the portal works, under help, video training, FlexMLS created a nice portal video called, where is it? FlexMLS portals on any platform. So the portal is basically a website your client can log into, tell you what they like, what they don't like. Now, the 2 reasons the portal is very important, and I found this, I used to live in Florida, and I moved to Miami Beach, and I found a realtor to look for rentals. Well, they had a software that was not FlexMLS, and I didn't really care for it. And so what I did is I downloaded Zillow to my phone, and I would look for properties. And now Miami Beach at that time, it was about 4 years ago, was a very hot rental market. And so I'd find a property on Zillow, I'd text my realtor, say, hey, let's check out this one. And she's like, it's already closed, it's already rented. And so, you know, with Zillow, listings might be a couple hours old or a couple days, sometimes even weeks old. Whereas in FlexMLS, this is live, up-to-date information. Your new listings are going to go out in like subscriptions or show up in the portal in about 10 minutes. Your price changes or your status changes like 2 to 5 minutes. So your client has access to the data that you have, but it's branded to you. So the number 1 reason to use the portal is it's live, up-to-date information. Now, the second reason to use the portal is you can track what your client is looking at. What I mean by that is when they log into the portal, when they view listings, the contact manager will actually tell you what they're viewing. When they save listings or hide listings, that actually shows up into contact management. So it's really important to get them on the portal because you see what they're looking at. Well, for my experience, what happened is when I was moving to Miami Beach, I was working for FlexMLS. I was on the road 2 to 3 weeks a month traveling around the country. I didn't need anything fancy for my rental because I wasn't home a lot. Well, my realtor knew how much money I made, and she had a different price range in mind. So when I went down there to look at properties, everything she was showing me was $300 more a month than I wanted to spend because, again, I wasn't home half the time. So, you know, she had no idea how important my price range was for me, just like your clients might not know how important, or you might know your clients are how important a fireplace or a pool or something, because you're not seeing the searching that they're doing if they're doing it on other sites. And we know by the time they talk to you, they may have been searching in Zillow for 3 months, 6 months, even longer. But if you can explain the downfalls of those other sites like Zillow, Redfin, you know, how the data is not up to date and all this other stuff. I mean, I know I've talked to realtors that say their clients will find a property online and then check out 5 different sites to see, hey, where's the data incorrect? Explain to them, you know, the value of the portal and get them onto the portal. It is a really cool thing. And again, in an intro class, I just kind of explain the portal, but normally my portal class, I would do like a 2 hours hands-on class, and we, you know, role play being the client and the agent. And we actually did that when I was there this last winter. But I would watch this video if you have any questions about it. But it really is a cool thing. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to save this search. And so what I'm doing is I'm combining tier 2, which is the save, search, and subscription, with tier 3, which is the portal. With the portal, your client does all the work, which is great because they want to do their own searching anyways. So if you let them do their own searching, but have it branded to you and you provide them that quality data, it really is a win-win. So let me type in a Star Wars character. So we're going to do Red Leader. And this was, oh, actually, before we save this, I totally forgot to go through the tabs. So let me do that quickly. We're going to go to the list tab. This is our list of properties. I got so excited about the portal, I just totally forgot about the other stuff. This is a normal view. This is a one-line view. So you can toggle back and forth between the two. Then you can go to the detail tab. And now the detail tab will show you kind of the listing report and all the other great information. If you go to different listing, it'll show you different report. Now your board has provided you a lot of cool third-party integrations like find.realtor.com or professional search, it's now called, RPR, showing time, you see transaction desk. So if you wanted to pull up information about this community or property, You can do so right here. Go to the Photos tab. Now, this is where I talked about in the first part of the class, you know, high quality photos are so important. Like this photo, this is not a high quality photo. Look how small it is. We were looking at those really high quality photos. It's so important to get those high quality photos that you upload. Let's try a different property. Maybe we can get one that's a little larger. Let's see, this one. Okay, this is a little bit bigger, but yeah, you definitely want a photo. You can get these photos that are really large, really high quality. You can see that that's a better example of a nicer quality photo. But again, 15 megabytes, up to 15 megabytes per photo, 3000 by 2000 resolution. We did a little search on the internet to see what that would look like. If it's larger than 3000 by 2000 resolution, it'll shrink down proportionally to 3000 by 2000 resolution. Then we go to the map tab. And this is my favorite part of searching. I can't believe I almost forgot this. We're going to zoom in. And actually, before I do that, I want to switch to edit search. I just want to open this up a little bit more. And we'll remove the kitchen features just because when I'm drawing map shapes, I really want to see a lot more listings on here so you get a better idea of what I'm looking at. So what I mean by that is, okay, we're going to zoom into Flagstaff. There's these 3 map shapes that you can use to help you narrow down your search. Remember when we were going through these tabs on the left side, I wasn't doing an area or a subdivision or anything really, because I want to use the map options over here. And what I mean by that is, let's zoom in over here. Now this rectangle, right now we have 94 results. This rectangle, if I click and I click again, watch this go down to 7, because now what it's doing, it's showing me everything in this rectangle. So the rectangle, this is one way to search. Now let's imagine that this is the husband's search, but the wife, she works right here and she wants to live within a certain distance of work. So I'm going to click right here and we're going to go out, and so watch, the circle is basically a radius, and we're going to go out, say 2 miles. So we have the husband search and we have the wife search. And whenever you're drawing shapes, it's going to zoom in. So I'm going to zoom out with my scroll wheel. But on the left side, you'll see the different shapes, the rectangle and the circle. And the shape within, read your hover text. All shape locations are included. Click to intersect. I would have no idea that I can create kind of like a Venn diagram thing by clicking on shape within to intersection. And so now, it's going to show me the one property that is intersecting the 2 shapes. The husband wants to live in a certain part of town, but the wife works in a certain other part, and she wants to live within, like, say 2 miles because she wants to bike when it's not winter. I'm zooming out so to show you what this one thing looks like. Now the shape intersection, you can always change this to not within. So if you want to avoid certain areas, now I'm just going to do it for these 2 shapes. As I zoom in, I can see the 2 shapes. But what's really cool about drawing a shape with not within, and that's what we're going to do, we can do with the freeform polygon next, is you can have an exact shape. You may not have a search parameter on the left side that is, you know, doing what you want to do. Meaning, like, there might be this subdivision called Crestview, and there's like 4 different phases. And the first 3 phases, really good construction, you know, your client would be happy. But the 4th phase, maybe the construction isn't great. Well, when you do a search for, you know, something like Crestview, it shows all of those phases. And you want to avoid that 4th phase. Well, you could draw a shape with this freeform polygon around that 4th phase and then say not within to avoid that part of the subdivision or a certain part of town, you know, whatever you want to do. So I'm going to get rid of these X's to get rid of those shapes. And I'm going to zoom back in. And I'm going to use the freeform polygon right here to draw a specific shape on the system. So I'm going to click on this. Now watch what I do. I click, I see this kind of like cursor with the blue dot. Every time I click with the blue dot, it gives me a point. And I'm just going to make this an arbitrary shape and then give it an arbitrary, kind of arbitrary name, but just to show you how this works. And then when I'm done, Stop moving your mouse. People will call FlexMLS support, say, well, why is it following me? Stop moving your mouse and double click. And once I've drawn a shape, I want you to pay close attention to this explanation. Now I've drawn a shape and I'm just going to call this one around the dog park. Now it's a little bigger than just the dog park, but again, just I need to give it a name. But I want you to think of this as this shape that we've drawn. It could be a one-time thing, or what I can do is I can save this shape and use it in the future. So I'm going to save this shape and call it around the dog park. But remember when we were looking at some of the Airbnb locations, we did like north of NAU, west of NAU. These are things that might be arbitrary or may make sense to me. And when I save these, I can pull them up at any time. So to save this, it's really simple. I'm just going to go over to the polygon right here on the left side, click on it so it centers it. And when it centers it, it gives me this pop-up to edit it. So I'm going to click on edit. And I'm just going to call this one around the dog park. I even give it a color if I'd like. And it gives me an option to save to map overlays. So I want you to pay close attention to this explanation. You have shapes that are part of something called a map overlay. You may have 15 different shapes. You could have 15 different shapes for golf course communities, gated communities, stuff bordering the national forest or something. But then your map overlay is going to be the hierarchy, the name of it. And so when I call save to map overlay, what am I going to call this? Well, let's see what I already have. I created one called Airbnb locations the last time I taught a mapping class. But I'm just going to call this one hotspots. Maybe there's certain areas that are really trendy right now in Flagstaff or other areas, and around the dog park, maybe there's suddenly you're getting some breweries or something, and so there's hot spaces, hotspots. It is Friday after all. Hotspots, and I'm going to save this. And so now I have a permanently saved shape, unless I delete it, called hotspots, the overlay, and then I have a shape called around the dog park. And I could create another shape. And I'm going to click on this, and every time I click, it gives me a point. Again, stop moving your mouse, double click. And this one, I'm going to just call this just west of NAU. Now I had one call, I think probably west for NAU for the Airbnb, but again, arbitrary names just west of NAU. Maybe this is another trendy area or something. I'm using arbitrary examples. I'm not in Flagstaff, but you're the expert. You're going to see how this works. So we'll save this one to an existing overlay. We'll do the hotspots, and I now have one required field. Okay, something's not working, so we'll just ignore it. Okay, it's saved, just something was happening. Problem with test accounts is a lot of times I use the same names of stuff. But now I have two different shapes. And so I'm gonna get rid of these shapes by clicking on the X, and you can get rid of them because you read that hover text. And anytime I wanna pull up the dog park one, just start typing in dog park. There we go, around the dog park. And I found 7 results. Now, remember I talked about in the beginning of the class, and I'm actually going to pull up, we'll actually right-click this FlexMLS, or no, we'll do probably easier to do it in the menu. We'll do our home. I'll right-click this and open this up a new tab. Let's go back to our dashboard that we were working on in the first part of the class. And we're doing market stats. Remember I talked about drawing a shape and using stats for it? Well, let's do prices. Go to the 3 dots. I'm looking for the settings to customize it. And when I click inside this location box, what do I notice? It says the Airbnb locations. These are just suggestions of things. It's not all of the things. So if I were to type in dog park, okay, it looks like it's, let's try hot. There we go. It just took a couple minutes for it to load. So do around the dog park. So now what this price location thing is going to show me all the prices that are around the dog park. Now, there we go. We suddenly notice it's really, really starting to go up. So maybe, again, this is that trendy area and I just got lucky. But you can draw those map shapes. Now, I drew something, around a specific location. But you can include that location, include multiple subdivisions, multiple areas, or whatever you want to do. Drawing map shapes is a really cool way to use the system. And let's do inventory. We'll do inventory settings. Let's try the hotspots. Okay, looks like NAU probably hasn't. Yeah, it just takes a couple minutes to update. So we'll do the west of NAU with the Airbnb. Normally you would have a couple minutes before you used it, but that would be the inventory for that arbitrary shape that I called west of NAU. But you know, it may make sense to you. So when those things are starting, you know, inventory is starting to drop a lot more. There's a lot more sales in that area. Okay, we'll go back to our original one. So now we've done our mapping, and now I'm ready to save the actual search. So I'm going to go to save search. And we'll do red leader, Flagstaff, around the dog park. I would say 200 or 300 to 400K. Red leader has like 5 dogs, and he absolutely loves the dog park. So that's where I'm going to put in the search name. Now, search description. This is not a description of your client, so be very careful what you put in this box. Contact, none, new, or existing. Now, if I usually go to existing and start typing in the name of my contact to see if I've already added them. I hadn't added red leader, so I'm going to go to new, and I'm going to put in his information. So red leader and R leader 17. I'm going to put in an email address at mailleater.com. So hopefully, you know, this works right. This would work with a normal email address, but I'm using like a test email. I kind of want to show you what these emails look like, because we're going to turn this portal account on and invite the customer's portal. So what we're doing here is we're actually combining tier 2 and tier 3. I am saving a search, and I'm going to add a subscription, but I'm also going to invite the customer to the portal. I'm not going to email these listings because the portal gives your client access to all the listings. It would be the 7 listings and then any new ones, any price changes or status changes. I like to do this all at once. Some people, what they do is they just save up a search and subscription and then don't do the portal at all. It's personal preference. One thing I really like to do, and I'll explain this briefly at the end of the class when we look in contact management, is I like to just invite people to the portal. They'll sign up to the portal, they'll do their own searching, and then they're going to generate data for you. Then you could create a saved search or subscription from that. You say, oh, it looks like you're really interested in properties about 300,000 in Flagstaff. Is that right? Yeah, let me create a search for you. And these subscription will be like a reminder to go back into the portal. So it's a different way to look at stuff. The system is evolving. That's one way I like to do it. And when I teach a portal class, I really focus on that. But we're going to just click on save and add subscription. And so let's just point out a few things. Now, use sender is checked for send notification new listings and send me an email when a contact clicks the link. I just uncheck these because contact management is now getting more and more advanced, that you get to track when your clients are clicking on stuff. So you don't need an email to tell you, hey, someone clicked on something. It'll actually show you in their contact record now in contact management. Now, schedule. Every day is checked by default, meaning once a day, every day, your client is going to get an email assuming there are listings that meet the search parameters. Right now, we only have 7 results. So this is a pretty narrow search. So there might be only a new listing or a price change or status changes once or twice a week. Whereas if they're looking at everything in Flagstaff between 300 and 400,000, and you might have dozens and dozens and dozens of results, they're probably going to receive an email every single day with multiple listings in that one email. The other option that is cool is ASAP. And this is what it sounds like. You turn this on, your client's going to receive an email shortly after the listing has hit the MLS. So new listings are about 10 minutes. The reason it's delayed about 10 minutes is very often realtors will add a listing and then they'll have an oh crap moment and say, oh, I forgot something. And so FlexMLS gives you a little bit of leeway to, once the listing goes live, you can make that final change that you just remembered. And so it doesn't generate 2 emails. It just generates 1. But the problem with ASAP is if you have a client with that really, really broad search and they might be receiving 20 emails a day, they're probably going to opt out of that subscription. So you want to use this one carefully for like investors, or if your client does have a really targeted search like the one that we see here. And this, I just like to put in some basic information. Hi, space, comma, some listings for you. Let me know if you are interested. So I'm going to save this as a template, not put in a name, because whenever I have this template, it's the default. I'm going to make it as the default one. Whenever I do a subscription, I can then just put in the name of my client, and I don't have to put anything else in. So it already has this basic information. And this is an email they will see really, really regularly, possibly every day or multiple times a day. So just keep it basic. And then I'm going to click on save. So I saved a search and a subscription, but I also invited my client to the portal. So there's actually going to be 2 different emails, and we'll pull those up in a second. But before we go to that, it says search and subscription saved. Would you like to email these listings now or choose listings to email? The reason it does this is people don't realize subscriptions are like magazine subscriptions. You don't get sent the original 7 results. You just get any new listings, price changes, or status changes. You're asking the system to do the work for you. So because I invited the client to the portal, they will see these 7 results in the portal. I'm not going to manually email, but it is personal preference. You know, before the portal was a thing, people would usually email listings and then they would set up a search and subscription. It was just kind of a different process. FlexMLS has been around for 20 years, but I find with the portal, it's just not necessary. So let's pull up. See if we can pull up those emails. So I believe it's R leader 17. Perfect, it did work. Okay, so 2 emails were generated. One was a portal invitation. And the portal, again, is a website your client can log into, tell you what they like, what they don't like. They just click on portal. Is invited you to set up portal preferences. If you were to go right here into portal preferences, you can customize some stuff. Again, not something we'd cover in an intro class, but I'll just kind of walk you through what this would do. We would sign up. And just put a name, red leader. I also say just do 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you're with your client, they may be pulling this up on their phone. Just walk them through the process. It's really simple. And if the password's 1, 2, 3, 4, you know they're not going to forget it. They're not getting any encrypted information or anything. But then they get into the portal and then they can do their own searching. They can save what they like, what they like, but they generate data for you. So this is a really cool thing. And I'm just going to click on a couple of listings. So when we go into contact management, you'll see what I mean. So I'm just going to click on this one twice. So it generates some listings that are viewed really, really quickly. Because once they start to play around with this, then that's the data that gets generated. Okay, so that was the portal email. And I know I'm going kind of fast. I'm trying to cover a lot in the intro class, but this is recorded. And watch it a couple times, go at your own pace. Normally my classes are hands-on, everyone has their computer out, but we obviously can't do that with the COVID. And so that was the portal invitation. Once they've logged into the portal, then they'll get another email letting them know how to get back into it. But the new listing updates, this is the subscription email. Remember I talked about an opt-in process? Well, if your client clicks on this, they're going to be good for 13 months. And anytime they click on a link, they're going to be good for another 13 months. Okay, so I just want to point out a couple more things before we finish the class. This opt-in status report, which I mentioned before, when your client opts into, or when you send a subscription for them, people think automatically they're receiving stuff. Unless they click on that button we just saw that says, yes, please send me listings, they're not receiving it. So if you're checking this report like once a week, like Thursday afternoon, Friday morning, takes you a couple minutes, check to see if anyone's pending. If they're pending and you're checking this once a week, that means they've only spent a week where they haven't received something. But when I teach this class in person, people are like, oh, I have someone who's been pending for 60 days. Are you telling me they haven't received any emails? Like, yeah, because they never opted in. Because to ensure that those emails get delivered correctly, you want to make sure that they opt in. And then we have sections like undeliverable, if your email address is incorrect. Confirmed is what you want to see. Red Leaguer just clicked on that, so he's confirmed. He's going to be good for 13 months. If they've opted out, you're going to see them here. Now, like any subscription on the internet, your client has the option down at the bottom it says to unsubscribe, please click here. Usually they opt out when you set them up with that ASAP option and they're receiving 20 emails a day. And you will have the option to resend it to them, but you may want to actually contact and say, hey, I see you opted out. Are you receiving too many emails? And then an active would be if they haven't clicked on a link in 13 months. So I taught a class there clearly quite a while ago, and then Wedge never clicked on an email. So if they haven't clicked on something in 13 months, then they clearly are not your client. And then the final thing I wanted to point out is contact management, and it's usually right here, start up at your thing. So when I go into contact management, I just like to double check that my work is correct. So here are my list of contacts. Well, let's pull up Red Leader. The few different sections that I go into is Red Leader. I see that he is confirmed, which is what I want to see. He has confirmed. If it says pending, he hasn't clicked on that subscription email. But the data that gets generated, which I would teach in a portal class, look at activity. Oh, he's viewed a listing. So that Birds of Prey, he actually clicked on that one. That is the data that they're generating for you. And then if you go to the portal tab, if they're actually saving or hiding things, you're going to see that there. Again, if the portal doesn't quite make sense to you, go up to help, video training, and then type in portal and look for that. FlexMLS portals on any platform are a great explanation of how that works. So that is what you want to do, is you want to make sure you've seen it, they're generating any data for you if they are confirmed. But also, every time I create a search and subscription, I always go to searches and subscriptions. What do I see? I see the search, and then I see the subscription. So that is a really cool option. And let's say, okay, Red Leader says, hey, I'm receiving too many emails. That's simple. Just click here. Go into the subscription, say, okay, I'm just going to set you up for once a day. Switch to weekly and click on save. And then the other thing that's cool in contact management is, let's say, okay, you're working in an open house and you have your computer at your kitchen counter and someone says, hey, we want to look at some listings. Well, if you don't have a lot of time, put in their name, check the box for the portal and click on add. This literally will take me 15 seconds. They'll get that email to invite them to the portal to sign up. And then they have access, they can do their own searching. They can go play around in FlexMLS, but it is branded to you. They don't see the other realtors' information. Then once they've done that, you can go back into that activity in a few days and say, oh, what has he viewed? What has he shared? Now you have a reason to reach out to Gold Leader. Says, hey, it looks like you're really interested in properties around Mormon Lake at this price range. Is that right? Yeah, okay. Let me set up a search and subscription for you. So you're kind of changing the order of them, but it's a really cool thing that we could do. So I'm just going to spend a couple minutes summing up. Really, all we did in the second half is we did a quick search. We did create our own template, but we filled in the fields that we wanted. Then we went through the different tabs like the list, the detail, photos to get more information about the property. But before we saved it, we went to the map tab and we used our shapes to narrow down our search parameters. If I draw a shape that I like, I can always save it. And if I ever want to pull up that shape, it's right here in this box, MLS number, address, or map overlay. So we see the hotspots now. Looks like that other one didn't save. That's all right. But I could pull up any of those shapes at any point and use them for a search, or remember we were using them with these stats gadgets. That's a really cool thing. Then we went up to save. we saved the search. Now I talked about the 3 tiers of support. Tier 1 is a manual email, which I didn't even show because a lot of people don't do it anymore. You are doing all the work. Tier 2 is a save, search, and subscription. The system is doing the work for you. And then tier 3 is the portal. Your client can do their own searching, tell you what they like, what they don't like. The client's doing all the work. So I really do like to combine tier 2 and tier 3. Then we went into the opt-in status report. Reason being is you want to make sure if you're setting these subscriptions out to your client, they're actually opted in, so they're receiving stuff. So if you check this once a week, then you can see if someone's still pending or if they've opted out. And then finally, we went into contact management. Just did that a couple minutes ago. And if you pull up a record of someone like Red Leader, you can go through different tabs and see some valuable information. So this concludes your new member orientation class for like an intro to FlexMLS. I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, please, you can send me an email at mlsroadschool@gmail.com, and I will be happy to answer them. I want to thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.